it's just so much easier and to focus on one and just say, this is all I do. I'm the guy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to The Automated Lawyer. I am one of your hosts, John Fritz, and I'm joined with my co-host, Dan Schnurbusch. Dan, what's going on today?
John, I am, we're coming back from Christmas. I was out for like 10 days, I think. And, all the systems were humming, the nothing exploded or caught on fire while I was gone. So that is a good feeling, right? But I think that's the first time I've taken that much time off in a row without feeling any stress, which was pretty nice. How was your holiday?
My holiday was great. It was great. It's always super busy with, with family and kids. Kids are off for 2 weeks, and you have twice as many kids as I do. So, but it was nice to take a little bit of time off, and enjoy kind of the holiday spirit. But did you? So did you took time off? You said you took 10 days off. I took only like 3 days off last week, and then I think this week we had just 1 day off. But did your team or your how many members do you have these days? Or do you have a couple?
We have 3. So
Okay,
we
cool.
have me, and then we have a paralegal and a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and then a lot of robots.
Yeah. So did your team members take off as well, or were they keeping the machine going while you were out?
Oh, they were mostly off as well, I think. They, we would pop in from time to time, answer an email or something, but for the most part, I think we were all taking it pretty easy for the holiday season here. So, but I'm back, ready to roll. Started the year with some annual OKR and objective key result planning. So we've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 all mapped out. What's going to be happening? What projects are on deck? What key focuses we're looking at? And a lot of it's on my calendar now. So that's some high level planning for me.
Yeah. I think the planning piece it's funny. It's, everybody talks about the, the year-end planning and then the first of the year planning and, how many people are still doing that in February, right? They're still following their guidelines as opposed to getting set in their old ways. I've been just getting super granular on organization, right? I mean, I like the big stuff planning and I do that all the time. Um, but now my focus has been on, the day-to-day organization on a day-to-day basis, right? How am I organizing this day to day, right? For success that then feeds into that larger goal or quarterly goal or whatever project that you're working on, right? These smaller pieces as opposed to, more higher level stuff.
Yeah. This year is going to be the year of overhauling a lot of our marketing systems so that one of the first projects, which is actually already done, is overhauling our Google Ads system. And I got in there yesterday, I believe it was, and found all kinds of things going on that I probably should have caught sooner, and budget being wasted on this, that, and the other thing, but got it fixed. And I like automated marketing systems. That may come as no surprise to you, but content that is evergreen and ads that'll run while you're sleeping is more my style. So getting that going, and we're probably going to do a brand overhaul with a new website and everything this year too. So that's exciting. That's exciting for me.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, the branding stuff is important, obviously. And, the overhauls, I think you got to be a little bit careful about about, I would say, objectives, right? Like, what am I trying to do here? I know that for us, we did a lot of work last year, or some work on conversions, right? Specific. So that was our specific target. Was we're driving traffic to our website, but how are we converting, right? Or we're driving to specific pages, but these pages are not converting, right? So how are we optimizing those things? So I would just say before people, and I know it's always fun to have a brand new website and have a new shiny object, right, and build it out. But it's like, hey, what are we really trying to do here? A brand overhaul, or just convert more, or drive more traffic to that website that already is converting? So I think there's a lot of different components there.
No, that's a great point because in this day and age, and I'm not really an art marketing expert, but I think there's an argument to be made that, your billboard website is not nearly as important as it was, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Whereas today, especially if you're paying for traffic, and even if you're not, a lot of your organic and paid traffic results probably need to be going to, landing pages that are specifically customized to what that person is looking for. Like if they're Googling, small estate, like they better be landing on a landing page that's talking about small estates and how those work. Because as soon as they log in and they're seeing, oh, it's going to take a year and da 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 da, but that's not true for a small estate. That's going to panic them. They're going to click away. They're going to do something else. So getting that specificity dialed in on your landing page and websites, I think is kind of the name of the game right now. But I'm with you. The logic behind that for us is like most of my website is still geared around estate planning, and frankly, we don't we don't do that much estate planning anymore. We do
Yeah.
some, but it's not like a key focus. So,
Yeah, well, that
uh,
makes a lot of sense. For an overhaul, if you're, obviously, either niching down or, hyper focusing on one practice area as opposed to another.
yeah, I may be. We'll see, but I may be trailing you in the probate only land here in the next year or two.
The
Um,
water's warm. You gotta come
yeah,
jump on in, it's, I mean, honestly, though, I mean, people that have multiple practice areas and, I've talked about this before and on different, things, but, the multiple practice areas, it's even with estate planning and probate, it's hard. I mean, it's
yeah,
hard to it's really hard to build a brand,
yeah,
that and it's just so much easier and to focus on one and just say, "This is all I do. I'm the guy," right? And
yeah,
it takes a while. I mean, it's taken me this will be 2 years since I've focused exclusively on probate work, right?
yeah,
And I'm going into year 3. Um, and it's the brand recognition. I mean, people I mean, there's starting to be traction in St. Louis about like, "Hey, like, call John's office, like, all they do is probate," right?
yeah.
And so it's taken me 2 years, but it's worth it. It's worth it to be known as something, right, in the marketing space or build that brand recognition, which is a long-term play as opposed to a short-term play, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing that I've noticed too is just the extent to which different practice areas, even ones that feel very related, like estate planning and probate, just how different they really are. I would go so far as to say that they are almost different businesses being run under the same roof because we kind of, as attorneys, we tend to lump law as a business. And it's like law, if in any other world, would be like 50 or 100 different businesses at least. And like, it's like if you think about it, like the workflows, the processes, the software, the automations, the team members, the skill set, the knowledge that you need for estate planning is totally different than what you need for probate. There's almost no overlap at all, other than that they both require a lawyer somewhere in the machine
I mean,
with a
and
law
they're
license.
they're very I mean, I agree 100%. They're very heavily forms and document driven, right? You're
Well, that's
basically
true.
and so that's
That's true.
that's the but see, that's what I think gets people into trouble because they think like, "Oh, I have a generation for estate planning. I can just do the same thing in probate," right? And it's gonna be an easy there's this medium ground of that can make everything easier, but you're completely right. I mean, like I said, this applies across the board to any law firm that is doing multiple practice areas. And we're not saying you can't do that, right? And it's not possible, but it does require building 2 separate businesses under one roof. I mean, you can absolutely do it and have 2 teams that do. I mean, it happens all the time, but understand that though. And
Yeah.
it took me 5 years to understand that. Literally,
Yeah.
I was growing 3 law firms under one roof and
Yeah.
was just way too much and it was
Right.
impossible.
Yeah. It's essentially double the number of, everything that you have to solve for. Right. I mean, and that's just in the operations side that I was, talking about with the different software and everything. Like, you think about it from a marketing perspective, you're going to have a totally different avatar client. Like my philosophy generally when you're talking about marketing is you want to start from your avatar. Like who are you trying to target? What are you trying to offer them? What is, Jim Smith of, $500,000 in assets or $1 million in asset or whatever. Who is this guy? Where does he live? What kind of things were responsive to Jim Smith? Jim Smith is a very different person in the estate planning world than, the Nancy Joe that you got to target for probate, or what have you. So it just fundamentally changes everything. So
Well,
I'm definitely with you there.
and I mean, and then just going to obviously the tech piece of it too. There's different, there's great document drafting systems out there, but I know there's some law firms that are building their own forms, and instead of using a forms driven, like a wealth counsel program, they're building their own automation platform. Um, but again, you're building it from scratch, right? And it's very hyper specific with law changes and all this stuff that
Hmm.
goes into it. So, yeah, it's the automation piece is so much easier when it comes to the tech, adding
Yeah,
back in the practice when you have one practice area, right? And then hyper focusing on like, what are my needs, and how, where, and so for us, in talking about tech a little bit more, for us, it's like, where are we bottlenecking in our process? And like, yeah, we have 8 different SKUs. They're all probate decedents estates, right? Or whether, whatever SKUs you have, but where am I bottlenecking in the actual process from start to finish? And like, that's what I've been obsessed with the last 12 months. And it's honestly, it's driving growth, a lot faster, because we're churning cases out faster, it's pushing cash through faster, right? And then we're getting that five-star review faster, which is then, initiating this, start machines going forward faster, right? Then you're getting more traction, et cetera, and, when it comes to signing up new clients and whatnot.
sure. Definitely. Definitely. Um, so let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit, about some of the big things that have come out over winter, because it wasn't just, Santa Claus coming to town. We had, um, some big news in the artificial intelligence world, which of course is my favorite thing to talk about right now. Um, just a couple of small things. 90% of top UK firms now have implemented or evaluated the implementation of artificial intelligence tools. So, this is up from about 20% last year. So we're seeing dramatic adoption shift in among large law firms, which is very interesting to see. And I think that's going to continue to trickle down, to smaller and smaller organizations. Um, but I don't know. I'd be interested to see the data on small firms and who's actually moving the fastest in, true implementation in their systems, rather than just, oh, did we demo, you know, Westlaw's, $30,000 a month new, whatever it is that you're using in your system.
Yeah.
We'll
I
see
think
who's more nimble on that. But
I think that the smaller firms that are part of, your Facebook group or are listening to this podcast or are dialed into any sort of legal AI, platforms or programs that are, interested in it and they wanna actually grow their firm, they wanna use tech and tools. Those are the people who are, demoing the AI and they're demoing different products, not just the mainstream stuff, because the mainstream stuff is, not that great for for what you're trying to accomplish. But I mean, I think that the larger firms are, yeah, the larger firms, there's so much bureaucracy. There's so much, they have, so many, they probably have a meeting about what, budgeting, and then they probably have a tech adoption meeting, right? And they're just so slow to adopt. And eventually
yeah,
they'll get there. But the problem is once they get there, it's too late. I mean, it's
yeah,
literally, it will be too late. I mean, they can still sit there and bill their $1,000 an hour, out billable hours. But eventually that's gonna cause problems, without having that adoption.
yeah, yeah. It's, it's interesting time, because this comes on the heels of, we had, I don't know if everybody was paying attention to this, but I think this is huge, is OpenAI launched at the end of their 12 days of shipments. They launched, the O3 model. And you might say, well, what the hell happened to O2? Weren't we just on O1? And well, yeah, but apparently O2 had trademark problems. So they're like, all right, we're going to call it O3. Um, but this model is not public yet. It's in like closed beta only for exclusive access to like academics and researchers, because right now it's costing hundreds or thousands of dollars per prompt. Um,
Wow.
which is because the way that the compute scales, it scales exponentially. So to get a marginal increase in performance, you have to input an exponential addition of energy and compute and you know, different training techniques and all that stuff to get it to output at a higher level. But damn, did they make a big improvement. There's a company called Arc AGI, which is one of these third party independent verifier companies. And what they do is they basically evaluate models against uh, basically a test that they've devised that is designed to test large language models on stuff that's not in their training set. So, they train these models on thousands and thousands. Well, actually, it's like trillions of different tokens at this point worth of information. But their tests are specifically designed to test skills that are not in the training set. So, like things that are also very difficult historically for computers, like interpreting orientation of visual objects and things that are pretty easy for humans to do, but that are historically really hard for computers to do.
Yeah.
As an example, O1, so the model that we've been working with and talking about up until today, scored a 32% on this test. So it was able to successfully accomplish 32% of the tasks given to it that were not in its training set. And this is the high tuned O1 model that everybody was raving about just a couple months ago. O3 hit an 87.5%
Wow.
score. This surpasses. So they had set an arbitrary, I guess it's arbitrary. I don't exactly know how they came up with this number, but originally they had said, well, an 85% is what we're going to call, if you clear that, we're going to call that model an AGI, an artificial general intelligence that can effectively can perform anything a human can perform. Yeah. This has kind of been the AI gold standard that everybody's been pushing for like, 100 years. I mean, we're literally talking about essentially replicating human capacity in a computer. And that was their benchmark, right? And as soon as it cleared this, they're like, wait, we need that. That doesn't count. We need to we need to change the measure. Because as it turned out, like there were things that it still can't do that a human can find pretty easy to do. But that I thought was very interesting. And what else is interesting is why did they choose that 85% benchmark? Because that 85% benchmark was what an average human could do. So on these same tests. So that I find just very, very interesting. We've seen a dramatic jump in complex reasoning and ability to, that is kind of one of the keys to AGI is, can it learn new things? And the answer appears now to be yes. The model can learn things that it has never been trained on and taught before. New skills that are fundamentally distinct from its training set, which is that's revolutionary. I mean, this is a big deal. So we'll see where this continues to go, but things are changing fast. O3 can learn. So here we are.
Not really a surprise though, at least from my perspective. I mean, the advancement from the original ChatGPT to where we are now in a relatively short time frame has been significantly incredible. I mean, each month they're basically, I mean, with the 12, what was it? The 12 days of shipments.
Yeah.
They're just constantly, there's a lot of money being spent. Okay. There's a lot of money being spent in a specific tech area, a major focus, right? The results are compounding, right? And so it's not, I mean, where do you think we'll be in 2 years? I mean, when it comes to this, I mean, it's going to be at some point we're going to hit, surpass, a normal human, and then we're going to be surpassing even the most brilliant humans. And then we're going to be, basically, this, just absolutely incredible artificial intelligence. Yeah. Right. But how it's actually used on a practical, pragmatic, day-to-day basis is kind of where that major connection is, right? Is here's this great, this great thought or this great, data system, but how can we actually use it on a day-to-day basis to improve our lives or improve our law firms?
Yeah, there is a barrier to entry right now that is not small. Like even though we have all this intelligence now, like getting it into a format and integrated into our existing stuff in a way that it's actually useful is a high barrier to entry right now. And I think that's going to be the project for the next several years for developers, is finding ways to lower that barrier as fast as possible, like get it down so that like we can actually, ordinary people who are not developers and who are not, they don't know a thing about Make and Zapier and automation and all that stuff. They just want to be able to talk to a robot that can do stuff for them. That's that's going to be the gold standard, is getting Jarvis, right? We've got Jarvis, but Jarvis is in a box right now and it's hard for him to escape and actually do anything. So
I
that's going to
mean,
be an interesting change.
can you imagine that? And this is probably, I mean, this is definitely a reality. I would say in the next 24 months, right, is where you're sitting on a computer in Zapier and Make, and at least Zapier has the ability. The plain language thing was a huge step for Zapier, right? Like, tell me what the connections you want to build, and then you type in your plain language, and then it comes up with what it thinks is the best connection, or what you're trying to accomplish when it comes to Zap connections, right? But
Yeah.
just imagine being able to just simply talk to it and say, "Hey, I want to connect FileVine with Pipedrive, and I want, when this deal gets dragged into this certain column, that it automatically creates a deal in FileVine, and then automatically sends an email to the client. It does all this, right?" Where you basically are telling that, and it just builds the connection for you, right?
Yeah.
That's 95% accurate or 90% accurate. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hopeful that this thing from Claude, I forget what it's called now. I'd have to pull it up, but they kind of created this um, universal integrated language protocol for allowing models to interface with external software. And if we could see, platforms adopting that plugin or that access point in platforms everywhere, apparently it's pretty easy to build into your code base.
yeah,
Uh, does this open up a world where we don't even need, Zapier and Make and things anymore? We just tell it, hey, can you do this? And it goes and does the thing. I mean, I guess we'll probably still need some kind of like automated flows, just because you don't want to have to tell the bot to do something every single time,
yeah.
right? But in terms of actually getting in and doing the thing, like, you know, are we not going to have to set that up anymore in a year? I don't know.
So
It's be very interesting.
so let's and this is so let me ask you this. So for as part of your 2025 planning, right? You talked about redoing your website. What's on the list for Dan Schnurbusch when it comes to tech stacks, building, any sort of automations? Like, what are your kind of high level projects, or do you have any that you planned out so far?
Ooh, I don't think that I have a lot of automation. Well, this is kind of funny, but I don't think I have a lot of automation focused stuff on there at the moment. I do think, there's a couple of things that are kind of baked into others. Like we're at the moment trying to um, get rid of some software, and that's going to require some additional building. Like for example, we still have Wealth Council and Elder Council, and they're just not getting enough use to justify anymore.
Yeah.
And wanting to wanting to bring that document automation kind of into Documentero, into Airtable, where if we're still taking estate planning to the extent that we're taking those, I may end up concluding, hey, forget about it. We're just gonna can all of it. But but in the near term, just kind of automating those templates and seeing if there's a good way we can maybe use AI or anything like that to write those templates and add that conditional logic, just to kind of decrease the burden of of manually rewriting your own templates a little bit, which the new models can output pretty long documents. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to pull that off. So, but a lot of automation projects are honestly in a good spot at this point. So I'm trying to focus on this year on other stuff. One thing I do want to add that I forgot to include in our OKRs when I was doing the planning is some more analytics, financial analytics, a little bit better conversion analytics, because we get some of this stuff in Lawmatics, but it's in Lawmatics, it's separate from our other dashboards. Like you have to pull, like right now, I feel like we're pulling reporting from like 3 different places to figure
Mhm.
out, what these numbers are, what this number is. One project for this year is going to be to try to pull all that into a kind of a centralized repository, so that we have kind of a high level executive, here's where we're at on marketing. Here's our numbers. Here's our sales rate. Here's our, expected run rate for the year based on da 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 da, and just getting tighter on analytics and reporting. So I think that's going to be a fun project, which will necessarily entail um, a lot of automation. What about in your neck of the woods? Any big automation projects planned this year?
We're still hyper focused on just significantly increasing the number of cases coming into the firm, right? Signing up new cases. So that's everything else has been, and that's been in the last 6 months or 12 months, but everything else is derivative of that number one goal is to just
Mm,
significantly increase the number of cases we sign up.
yeah.
I think that going off of your point on the analytics is something that we're definitely working on as well. And being just we have analytics we use. I mean, Pipedrive gives us a really great analytics platform that you can build a custom dashboard through. So it tells
Mm,
us like the leads that are coming in, you know, new case signups, values for per case, new signups per week, per month, per quarter, all this
mm,
data you can just basically build a custom dashboard to of all of our lead analytics, right? All of our stuff coming in, and then the
mhm,
conversion stuff. So just being really intentional about making sure that the analytics that we're measuring is very super accurate, right? It's as opposed to saying like, oh, okay, well, this assigning a certain value for each case, right? Well, that's not what the true value of the case is because we have all these other things, or maybe it's a statutory fee case, right? So we want to make sure that we're actually measuring like each month what we're bringing in
yeah.
on a real measurable basis, as opposed to just it assigning it a base value, and then just having your reporting be not as accurate. So I wanna be accurate and just know exactly what the numbers are on the front end, and then on the back end, we use QuickBooks for all of our other analytics where we run significant reporting through QuickBooks on, um, each SKU is what all of our marketing spend, our expenses, what each how many dollars are coming from a small estate affidavit, how many we did, what was the total average, case value,
Mm,
what was the total percentage of that SKU in the overall percentages, like, okay, before we were skewing down with a lot of small estates, right, that were lower value, and so our goal was to push that up to be extremely heavily, full estate focused, and, like, having those analytics, but,
mhm,
from an automation standpoint, I still have that PDF that I'm working on getting that data,
sure.
and it's not just the getting having anybody can fill out a PDF online and submit it, right? It's making sure that data flows properly into the right channels
Yeah.
and flawlessly, right? And then coming up with that procedure, so, um
It's it's tricky. Getting structured data in, it can be tricky. Like, I've wrestled a lot with, our fill out combination with Airtable and getting the data in the right way. And of course, the clients never want to fill out the form the way that you expect them to.
Yeah.
So just having to constantly refine and improve the form to get tighter and tighter data that is then structured properly when it comes into Airtable, so that we can just minimize the amount of, you know, responding to the client. Oh, you left out this box. Can you please let us know what this is? Or, oh, they spell the address with like just the street, and then they leave off the city, state, and zip and stuff like that. So getting to that point where we've got good validation, good structure. So contacts are being tagged correctly. Like, this is a client contact. This is an air contact. This is a decedent contact, things like that. As it goes into the system. So everything goes where it's supposed to go, and just getting that tight, to minimize that back and forth. So we get one form in, we're done. That's all the data we need. That's the gold standard, right? So,
Yeah, and
uh,
it's hard to do, and it's hard to do one form, right? I mean, and we have, basic information in the fill out in the beginning, and then if they become a client, then it's like the additional information,
yeah,
right? So I think
right.
it's really hard to do that, but I think to your point on that, getting the data in and getting it tight, and specifically, I mean, I'm using like conditional logic to basically to rule out the client messing up the form, right?
Yeah,
Is this person dead? Yes. Okay. Well, then it asks the next question. If not, then
yeah,
you give me the date of death. Like, so it's only asking the information, you know,
yeah,
is there as opposed to having right now, we have, 10 sheets for assets, right? Select the boxes of the assets, right? And that
right.
gives the questions for those sections to answer, right? So it's going to reduce the overall amount of time the client spends looking at the form, and hopefully it reduces the amount of error on the client end, because we still get errors
Yeah.
even on a fillable PDF, which is, archaic, but
Yeah. No, exactly. Conditional logic, but setting up all that conditional logic with that much grain, and this just goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like how much different businesses can be from, or practice areas can be from area to area. Like your form, like if you have a really well done intake form, it might take you hours, or a consultant hours and hours and hours to build that out well, and then you know keep going back and forth. Like the client, you figure out over a couple of weeks, all right, clients are submitting this wrong here. Now we need to fix this. Oh well, that's gonna and before long, you've spent quite a bit of time getting your intake process and your intake data collection, form tight. But now you got to do that again for another practice area. And again, if you have another third practice area. So another point in that, in favor of that concept.
yeah, but
Um,
once you get it down though, it's like with the document automation platform, like all we do is tweak now, right? We have all we're doing is just doing minor tweaks, probably 5, 6 hours, maybe let's just say 8 hours at the end of the year to basically tweak forms, tweak this, tweak that, change a little bit of information. Maybe this sentence sounds better in this form. Um, but once you build it, like when it comes to that, like we have intake form, once I get the conditional logic down and get it going to where I want it to go, but for a change in your complete tech stack, which requires you to, tweak the way the data is going into a new platform, then you're going to be set for a while, right? You can check the box and keep moving, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish here, shortly. But it's hard to. I'm finding it hard to focus on any automation tech stuff right now because I'm so obsessive with my number one goal, which is bringing in new cases, right? So it's like I
there
know
you
that
go.
there's the things I want to work on, but and it could be people could be the flip right now. They could be obsessing over tech and automation, right? And
Yeah.
instead of bringing in new cases, and they're spending 90% like on building out this intake form, but like going back to the one basis is which is what is what goal does what you're doing serve, right? If what
Yeah.
goal does this tech piece serve? And so
All right. Well, I got to run. I've got a meeting here in about 2 minutes, so I gotta wrap. Let's do a tip of
yep,
the week. This week, my tip would just be to automate one thing. Just automate one thing. Pick something that's irritating. It can be a small thing, and then maybe next week or the week after that, automate another thing, and then do another thing a couple weeks later, and then after a year or two, if you keep doing that, you'll
after a
find
year or two,
yourself.
you're Dan Schnurbusch.
Well, yeah, you look up and you look around and you're like, holy crap, there's a lot of things I don't have to worry about anymore. Um, it's a nice feeling. There is a threshold once you've automated a certain number of things. You're like, holy cow, I don't need people for this anymore. I don't have to. I don't stress about that anymore. It's just taken care of. That's my tip of the week.
So my tip's gonna be short and sweet. ChatGPT just launched Sora. I'd talk to you about that to see if you had played with it. I have not spent a whole lot of time. It looks really cool. The platform though, that it's basically says, describe your video. And it gives you the ability to upload a video and pictures. So I'm interested to see what it can do, if it can, animate pictures or edit video or what it can do, but just check it out. Start working on the prompting for that and playing with the prompting and kind of see what it can do.
All right, folks, if you enjoy the conversation, thanks for listening. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed the content, join us in the Legal Tech Collective Facebook group where we talk about these kind of stuff all the time. I appreciate it, John. I'll talk to you next time.
Awesome, Dan. Have a good rest of the week.
Take it easy.